Hello guys, before we start this video, I just want to give a thank you to my little community for all the condolences and nice messages you guys have been sending me. I really appreciate it. And I will announce every new Patreon at the beginning of the next Dark Souls and Unity video. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Hello guys, and today we're going to add some jumping to our controller. So first, let's go to the player actions. Let's go and add an action. I'm just going to call it jump. And then the action type is a button. And on the binding, I'm just going to type in space on the keyboard. Alright, let's close it out and save it. Next, let's go into our input manager and actually add the input into the controller. So this is the same process as before. It's like putting in any button. We did this before with the B button. I'm just going to call mine, we're going to make a bool for it to show when it toggles true. And I'm going to call mine public bool jump input. If you want to call it space input or A input, whatever we're using, that's okay too. I'm just going to call mine jump because we're only going to be using this right now for the jump command. Then on enable, we're going to say player controls dot player actions dot jump dot performed plus equals I equals greater than jump input equals true, which just means when you press the space key on the keyboard, it will turn this jump input bool to true. Next, we have to set up a function that will tell us to do something when this input is changed to true. As you can see before here, we made this little pseudocode for handle jumping input. Well, we're actually going to uncomment this out and copy it because we're going to make this a real function now. So right below here, let's make a private void. I'm just going to call this handle jumping input. And the first thing we want to do is just say if jumping input or if jump input is true, then we're going to set it immediately to false. So when you press the jump input, it only registers one time. So it's going to come in here, it's going to go into this if statement, and it's going to disable, and then we're going to actually call upon another function, which we have not made yet. And it's going to be on the player locomotion. So we're just going to say player locomotion dot handle jumping, or handle jump. Now, you will get an error because, again, we have not made this function yet, but let's copy this right now. We're going to make it right now. Now let's go to the player locomotion, which you can do by going up to the top of the script. First, I'm going to erase these slash marks, so this actually registers. Now, up here, if you right-click on player locomotion and click go to definition, we'll go to the script. Now let's go down. I'm just going to minimize this and get it out of our faces, so it's a bit easier to look at all this. And right below handle falling and landing, I'm just going to say public void, because we're calling this on another script. And I'm going to say handle jumping. Then inside here, we're going to create some logic. Okay, first let's go up here to movement flags. Let's make a public bool. We're going to call this is jumping. So we want to know when we're actually jumping, when we began to jump. And then let's go over to the player manager. We're going to minimize all this, and we're actually going to get ready to add something on the late update. But first, let's go add it into our project here. In the Animator tab, go to the parameters, make a bool for is jumping. And now, the reason why we're using a bool in the Animator as well is because we need to know when to transition from our jump to the falling animation or the empty animation. So basically, we need to be able to set these up for some transition parameters, and it will all make sense very shortly, don't worry. On the late update here on the player manager, we're just going to say player locomotion dot is jumping is equal to animator dot get bool is jumping. So basically, whenever we're changing the is jumping bool on the animator, the player locomotion is jumping bool will reflect that as well. And the reason we do this is because we're actually going to disable the is jumping after the animation of is jumping plays using a script on the animation. So under handle jumping here on the player locomotion script, we're going to say if is grounded, then we're going to begin our logic. Now let's go to the animation manager and make the animator variable here public. Because in the future, when we call upon the animator from any other script, we're going to call upon it from the animation manager. So down here then, we're going to say animation manager dot animator dot set bool. We're going to set is jumping to true. And this will only happen if we are already grounded. So you can only jump when you're grounded. And then right below that, we're just going to begin by playing our jumping animation. Animator manager dot play target animation. And then we're going to say jump. Now, I have a jumping animation of my own. You can get these on the Unity asset store or Miaximo, but I cannot give out mine because mine is a paid asset. I'm going to say false because we're not interacting. I want to be able to move while I'm jumping through the air, and I'll show you what I mean in the future. And then right below this, we're going to say float. I'm going to make a variable called jumping velocity. I'm going to equal that to mathf.square root. And this is just going to be a little equation to get us a nice little pop to our jump. I'm going to say -2 times gravity intensity, which is not made yet. This will be a float variable. And then multiply that by the jump height, which is also not made yet, which will be another float variable. And basically, by tweaking these little variables, you will be able to mess with your jumping height and the speed at which you go up and down. So then we're going to say vector3. We're going to say player velocity is equal to move direction, which just takes, again, the direction you're moving when you jump. So we use that in the handle movement function above. And then we're going to say player velocity dot y is equal to jumping velocity. So all we're doing is we're taking the movement velocity that we already have when we start the jump, and we're adding the jump velocity on the y-axis. So if you're running, you will keep your running velocity, but you will also add the velocity of the jump added on top of that. I hope that makes sense. And right below that, we're going to say player rigid body dot velocity is equal to player velocity, and that just sets the velocity of the rigid body to the new velocity we've just created. Okay, now let's make these variables here for gravity intensity and jump height. A little note, the gravity intensity variable always has to be negative, or else you'll get a null error because the multiplication will equal something that won't be able to affect the player's rigid body velocity. So when you're doing your gravity, always keep it at a value that is negative. So we're going to say public float jump height. I'm just going to initialize this at 3. I'm going to say public float gravity intensity. I'm going to initialize mine at -15. Okay, we're actually almost done. So let's save that. Now let's go to the handle falling and landing, and right here where it says if we're not grounded, we're playing the falling animation and we're making our player fall down at this speed. Well, we don't want to do that if we're in mid-jump, so we're going to say and if player is not jumping, so exclamation mark is jumping. That way we won't get pulled down to the ground or play the falling animation if we're mid-jump. And then in handle rotation, I'm just going to say if is jumping, return. So we cannot rotate in the air while we're jumping. Once we start a jump, we're locked in our rotation. I'm also going to say the same thing for handle movement. I'm just going to say if is jumping, return. That way we cannot move in the air. If you want to move in the air, you can tweak the code a bit, and you can allow that relatively easy. You can also put if is jumping, return right here. It's all up to you. It's all the same, honestly. I'm just going to erase that because I have it in those separate functions. Now I'm going to save that. And now we have to actually tweak the animations a little bit, and the transitions rather. So I have a jump animation, and I'm going to add another bool here first for is grounded. This is on the animator again. And we're going to go back into the code, and we're just going to say here on the late update that animator.setBool is grounded is equal to player locomotion.isGrounded. So the animator is grounded bool will always equal what the player locomotion is grounded bool is. And this is because, again, we're going to use these for some animation transitions. So I will show you what we mean right now. Now I'm going to get my jump animation here and drag it onto the override state. So this is the animation. Just you can see leap forward and then touch into the ground. Okay, so let's drag it up here. I'm going to put it right above the falling animation. I'm going to make a transition from the jump to the falling and from the jump to the empty state. And this condition here, I'm going to click plus on that. Now let's click on the transition, and you will see I'm going to look for is grounded. So if is grounded is equal to false, and then you go to the falling animation, add a condition here. If is grounded is equal to true, you go back to the empty state. So if you jump off of a ledge and are still in the air, you will then play the falling animation. On tick has exit time, by the way, or else you get some weird behaviors. And if you are grounded, you'll go back to the empty state so you can continue your locomotion. So now I'm going to actually add a script here called reset is jumping. I'm going to put that on the jumping animation itself. And let's double click that. And we're going to use on state exit. Okay, so whenever we are leaving the state, we're going to call upon this. And this is why we need to get the is jumping bool from the animator, and why we need to make the player locomotion bool equal this bool, so we can reset it after we're done this animation through this script. And we're just going to say animator.setBool is jumping is equal to false. So again, just to be clear, essentially we're just doing this so the is jumping bool gets reset and our falling behavior and our movement behavior gets back to normal. Because if we didn't put this script here, then our is jumping bool would never reset, and we'd just be stuck in that position where we can't move, and our falling behavior acts differently, etc., etc. So we're just fetching the bool from the animator for that reason. It's easier to reset directly after the animation, nice and clean. Let's make a transition from falling to land now, and use the is grounded condition. And if that is true, we will go to the land, and if not, we will keep falling. Alright, now if I hit play, we can go in the game here, and I can jump, and as you can see, I'm going right up in the air. And now, if I go down here and modify, say, the gravity, and make it minus 40, and I jump, I get a really big jump here. And, oh, we're actually got a bit of a animation lag there, and I'll show you why. Let's go back to the animator. And if we go from the falling to land, we have exit time tick. Let's untick that. It'll be instantaneous now. So we go back into the game again now. If I go to the character here, and I go back down to the gravity, put it on 40 again, and jump, as you can see now, we don't have that little delay lag. We just go right to the landing animation. It looks nice and clean. Cool. You can also mess with the jump height itself. So if I put back the gravity to a higher setting, you can see here now, I'm going back to the ground quicker. And if I edit the jump height, I still go back to the ground pretty quickly, but I jump a little bit higher. Okay, cool. So I'm going to put that back on 3. And as you can see now too, if I run off of this, or if I press jump and hold the up key rather, I'll go forward. If I just jump in place, I'll stay in one spot and go up and down. So if you're holding the forward key, you can go forward momentum. And if you jump off the edge here, you land properly as well. I hope you guys found this video helpful. I tried to do something different than the root motion jumping I did in my Soul series. I figured I might as well do the other version of this too. So this one gives you a bit more freedom, and you can kind of decide what you want to do by messing with the settings. You can even expand upon this further by allowing movement in the air and rotation, etc., etc. But if you got this far and this video did help you, don't forget to drop a like and leave a comment. It does help appease the YouTube algorithm gods. And if you're feeling super generous, check out my Patreon below. If this video is a bit different, I'm not recording at my house. I'm currently out visiting family. Some stuff went down, so I'll be back in my office hopefully this week. And if there's anything sticking out in the video, everything will be back to normal. Until then, I will see you guys in the next one.